I get it when you're finally ready to upgrade your home theater. The subwoofer is the part that makes people either high-five you or tell you to tone it down. I was chatting with a friend last week who's got a decent 2-channel setup and is thinking about adding that extra punch for movie nights. He's worried about blowing his budget on something that sounds great on paper but ends up just humming in the corner, and he's also nervous about ending up with a box that needs a PhD to dial in. If you're in the same spot, the link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The ELAC Varro PS350 BK is the kind of sub that promises a lot of tech: DSP, a bass amplifier, large diameter voice coils, all wrapped in a sleek black vinyl cabinet. What matters more than those buzzwords is how it behaves once you plug it into the living room. In my own testing, the first thing I noticed was that the unit gets going without a long warm-up. You hit power, and the built-in DSP immediately starts shaping the low end to match whatever source you're feeding it, which means you don't have to spend an afternoon tweaking knobs. That's a real win for anyone who wants great bass but doesn't want to become a part-time acoustic engineer. If you're a movie lover who watches a lot of action or sci-fi, the Varro delivers that deep, room-filling rumble that makes explosions feel like they're happening in the room with you. I paired it with a 5.1 surround system in a 15-foot rectangle, and the low frequencies stayed tight rather than turning into a muddy wash. The DSP has presets that you can select via the companion app, so you can switch from a cinema mode to a music mode with a swipe, and the sub adapts its output accordingly. That flexibility is especially useful if you're the type who streams both blockbuster films and vinyl-based jazz sessions. Now, the sub isn't a universal fit. If you live in a small apartment with thin walls, you might find the PS350's 350W rating a bit overkill. The low frequencies can travel through drywall and disturb neighbors, especially if you crank the volume past the home theater sweet spot. In my experience, keeping the level around 7,080% of the maximum gives you that impactful thump without turning your hallway into a low-frequency concert hall. For someone in a shared building, the app's ability to set a precise SPL, sound pressure level, limit can be a lifesaver, but you still have to be mindful of the environment. One practical strength that often goes unnoticed is the sub's wiring flexibility. The unit comes with both a line-level RCA input and a high-level speaker-level input, meaning you can drop it into an older AVR that only has speaker outputs, or you can hook it straight to a preamp if you're running a component system. That kind of compatibility saved me a few extra adapters, and it's a relief for anyone who already has a fairly complex setup. The large voice coils also mean the driver handles high power without overheating, so you can run it for long movie marathons without hearing any thermal compression. On the flip side, the Varro size is something to keep in mind. At 12 inches, it's a respectable footprint, but the cabinet depth pushes the rear wall out a little further than a typical 10-inch sub. If you're arranging a tight corner placement, you'll need to make sure there's at least a couple of inches of clearance behind the unit to avoid bass cancellation caused by the wall. In my own living room, I ended up positioning it slightly off-center, which actually helped smooth out some standing waves that would have been more pronounced if it were dead center against the front wall. Another nuance is the app itself. It's straightforward, but it does require a stable Wi-Fi connection because the DSP settings are stored in the cloud. If you have spotty home internet, you might notice a delay when you first load the app, though once the settings are cached it works fine. The app also offers a basic EQ graphic that lets you boost or cut specific low-frequency bands, which is handy if your room has a particular resonant frequency that tends to ring. I used it to dial down a 60 Hz peak that was making the floor vibrate whenever the bass hit a certain intensity. That kind of granular control is something you rarely get on a sub in this price range. So who should walk away with this sub? If you already have a solid main speaker system and you want to add genuine depth to movies, gaming, or music without diving into a sea of manual calibrations, the ELAC Varro PS350 BK is a strong candidate. It's also a good match for people who like the convenience of an app and appreciate the option to switch between presets on the fly. On the other hand, if you're on a shoestring budget, or you live in a situation where low-frequency leakage could get you a complaint from downstairs, you